Spoiler warning for Attack on Titan Season 4, Episode 11. You've been warned. It's time we talk about Gabi. At this point, Gabi has reached levels of depravity that I didn't even think were possible, and let's go ahead and talk about that. So almost immediately upon starting this week's episode, you see that Gabi and Falco are in a Paradise Island jail somewhere, right? And it seems like Gabi is having some psychiatric breakdown and she might be in a psych ward with Falco, which is honestly, let's be honest, that's probably where she should be. But regardless of any of that, obviously Gabi was not having a psychotic breakdown. She does that to get the Paradise Island guard from the Garrison Regiment to come over and check on her out of concern, in which she then decides to brutally assault him with what seemed to look like a concrete slab in a bag. So basically Gabi made like a sling type thing and literally just killed the guard who was checking on her mental well-being. At this point, I was already pissed off at Gabi this episode, but I didn't like Gabi to begin with before, so really what does it matter, right? I mean, it's not like I expected this from Gabi or that the audience expected this from Gabi, but I kind of expected this from Gabi. Murder is not above her, obviously, as we've seen with Sasha. Rest in peace. But the real question for Gabi is, when do you reach the point of no return? When are you so indoctrinated and brainwashed and ignorant to the world around you that you literally decide that the armband given to you by the government that is obviously oppressing you, nobody wears an armband to identify themselves as a certain group unless it would be for a religious reason that is built into that religion's ideology. Obviously, that's not the case for Eldians. Eldians don't wear armbands in Marley because they want to. They wear them because it's a way to mark them as different from everybody else. And it seems like this episode, Gabi has literally gotten to the point to where she has some obsession over this armband and actually keeps the armband on even after her release from, or her escape from prison with Falco. And Falco tells her to take off the armband. Why do you still have this armband on? This is ridiculous. We're not living in Marley anymore. And obviously Falco recognizes that the armband is a way that they oppress Eldians. And Gabi refuses to take off her armband. She gets really offended and she says that this armband is the only thing that separates her from the Island Devils. In fact, she says that she's a good Eldian. Now tell me that isn't just that is just twisted. I have no other words for that. I mean, imagine a Jewish person in the Holocaust, which is obviously the comparison that Isayama in Attack on Titan is drawing. Okay, imagine a Jewish person in the Holocaust wanting to keep their armband on. Obviously, that didn't happen. Why would you fight to keep yourself and your people oppressed? Now, Gabi doesn't know any better. That's true. She's an indoctrinated child, but she's past her Marleyan roots now. She's in paradise with Falco, and Falco has obviously grown as a person, and we see that Gabi has not. But Gabi's depravity doesn't stop with the armband shenanigans this episode. No. Gabi and Falco are then soon approached by Kaya, who is the little girl that, if you remember, Sasha saved a long time ago. So throwback to how everything in this series that Isayama has written is relevant and going to continue to be relevant. But essentially Kaya finds Falco and Gabi on the river where Gabi's having this, mental freak out about her armband, and obviously seeing that they are escapees or are kids in the middle of nowhere for some reason, offer them to come back to Sasha's family's farm to get some food and things like that. Well, Gabi obviously didn't like this idea because she's having this whole mental idea that all these people are devils and things like that. So you see a scene of her grabbing a rock behind her while talking to Kaya, basically saying like, we ran away from home, that's her excuse when they actually broke out of jail. So Gabi is literally grabbing a rock to hurl at Kaya to either throw at her or smash her head in. So Gabi is going to murder a second person this episode, right? Well, luckily, just like Reiner wanted, Falco is right there to stop her, and they actually decide to go back to the farm and to, well, eat lunch or dinner with Sasha's family. It's quite ironic. This is literally why Reiner said in episode 2 of this season that Falco, you have to watch out for Gabi. She can't be the one to inherit because she's just gets herself into trouble. Like, Falco, you have to make sure that she's safe. You have to make sure she's okay. She can't take care of herself. She's too headstrong. And obviously we saw an example of this back on the airship when Falco had to literally grab onto Gabi while she was going to go try and kill Sasha, or kill Eren, but she ended up killing Sasha. So Reiner was correct in saying that Gabi is going to get herself killed, or she's going to kill somebody else, and Falco has to come in and save the day for like the third time at least. So obviously Gabi and Falco are hungry, if not starving at this point, given that they've broken out of jail. And now they're back at Browse Farms, or Browse Stables, because they now, I guess, raise horses, or they've been doing that for a while. I have no idea, but anyways, they're back at Sasha's family's stables, and they get offered food, and instead of, doing the smart thing and being like, well, I'm starving, these people are obviously trying to help me, we're not in a horror movie or something, or, are we? You really can't trust anybody in Attack on Titan, so maybe Gabi is a little bit right in her thought process here, but not really. These are nice people, this is Sasha's family, and they go to eat dinner with Sasha's family, and instead of Gabi just eating the food, she makes a whole fuss at the dinner table, which was honestly one of the most awkward scenes I have ever seen in anime in my life, because Falco is trying to encourage her to eat her food while the other children at the table are just staring and just mesmerized that Gabi's acting this way. I literally could hear my own heartbeat in this scene because I was so nervous about what was going to happen next. I was like, oh my god, why are you behaving this way, Gabi? Well, at the end of the day, Gabi forces herself to eat the food, at which Falco was just like, whatever, I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna starve. Gabi, if you want to starve out here in paradise, you can do so, but Falco was like, hey, we'll do whatever work you want, guys. Just let us stay on your stables for, I think he said a few days, like 3 to 4 days, and we'll leave. Just give us some food, give us some housing, and we'll clean your stables or whatever. So, essentially, after the dinner, Falco and Gabi start doing their chores, and they learn that all the children living with Sasha's family are actually orphans. Orphans meaning specifically in this scenario that they had lost their parents to the initial attack on the wall in season 1. So Sasha's family they're good people, and at this point they've lost their daughter, so they're obviously out to help Falco and Gabi, which is super ironic because Gabi obviously killed Sasha, but they don't know that. Now there's this super hilarious scene where Gabi gets a bunch of horse shit dumped on her, which is honestly well deserved in my opinion. Loved that scene. Good job, horse. Apparently Gabi can't ride horses. Falco said something along those lines. Someone correct me in the comments if I just made that up, but Falco said something about her not being able to ride horses, or maybe it was you've never met a horse that you're not able to ride, something along those lines. Let me know. But regardless, Gabi gets a bunch of horse manure dumped upon her, and she gets enraged at their situation. Kaya, one of the orphans that Sasha had saved in the past, the one who initially found Gabi and Falco at the river, comes to the barn and says, hey, we're gonna get ready for dinner, right? And Falco and Gabi obviously go walk with her, and then Gabi once again gets into a conversation with Kaya, and doesn't just get into a conversation with Kaya, but actually gets into an argument where she starts spewing Marleyan propaganda to Kaya, saying that, well, how can you be mad that Gabi, that Sasha died? How could you be mad about this when you guys are devils? You guys have to atone for your sins before you can even think about mourning your own losses. Look what you've done to Marley, and look what you did to the rest of the world a century before. Obviously, Kaya being big-brained and knowing that this is Marleyan bullshit because they've been in the war with Marley, they know the propaganda. Kaya says, well, is that what they told you in Marley? And almost immediately you could see the shock on both Gabi and Falco's face that they're not stupid. They know that, or at least Kaya knows, that they're from Marley because she overheard them screaming at the river when Gabi was having a literal panic attack about her armband. So now Gabi's seen that the obviously the only solution here for the people that are helping you in this situation is to just try to kill them again. And she grabs a pitchfork and tries to charge at Kaya, in which Falco, good guy Falco, once again, grabs the pitchfork and says, "What are you doing, Gabi? What are you doing, Gabi?" It's the question this entire episode. What is Gabi doing? So let's get the attempted murder counter up on screen. That's two tries at attempted murder, and that is one murder. So in one episode from Gabi. That's bad. And keep in mind, that's two total murders. Two total murders for Gabi now. And that's nothing compared to anybody in the Scout Regiment, killing people in Marley or whatever. But when you're a kid, you don't just murder people, okay? You don't do that. And I think they're like 13. At 13, I wasn't murdering people, and I'm still not murdering people. I'm not a murderer, right? You don't just murder people. So now she has two murders under her hands. She's trying to go for a third, which she attempted twice. So, wow. So Kaya, being, the best absolute character in this episode, I mean, she's really covering for Gabi's stupidity here. Has to tell the other people on the stables who are like, "Hey, what's going on over there? Why is she assaulting Kaya with a pitchfork?" And Kaya's just like, "Oh no, we're arguing over Falco. I'm in love with Falco, blah, 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 blah." Obviously just a whole thing to get the attention away. So Kaya, even in the face of being potentially murdered, covers for Gabi. And Gabi, the only reason you're not dead at this point is because of this girl. Like, pay her some homage, like, give her a gift or something, because clearly you're not appreciative for what Kaya's doing for you this episode. Now, here's where we start getting into really what everybody wants to see and what I wanted to see and kind of what I was hoping to get out of this episode. At this point, it's already been really crazy, obviously. Gabi's trying to kill people. They're meeting with Sasha's family and friends who are literally, obviously, victims of Gabi's last murder, or two murders ago because of the guard at the prison. And this is where the episode starts to end and starts to conclude. So we're getting into the big reveal here. So basically, Kaya starts having some dialogue with Falco and Gabi, and Kaya takes Falco and Gabi to the village where, if you remember, that her parents were killed. The scene where her mother had bad legs and could not escape the Titan that was attacking their village, and then Sasha comes in with the axe and fights off the Titan, takes Kaya and runs away. You remember that, right? And so they're back there, and Kaya decided to come to that place to have the conversation that she's about to have with them. Now, cool thing is that hatchet or axe that Sasha used to fight off the Titan is still embedded in the top of the door. That was pretty cool that was thrown in there. So obviously, they didn't do any cleanup here. It's a very war-torn area. Set the mood for Gabi. Maybe she can start to understand where the Paradisians are coming from. Just maybe. So Kaya starts crying and basically asking Gabi and Falco why her mother had to die and why Marley would attack humanity within the walls. Why does Gabi claim that it is her mother, that it is Kaya's mother's fault, and that it is Kaya's fault for the apparent sins that the Eldians committed a century ago? Kaya pulls the argument that, well, I didn't do that. My parents didn't do that. We had no control over any of this. Why are you fueled with hatred towards us when we played no part in this? And essentially, Gabi now is starting to come to terms, at least it looked like she was starting to come to terms with, what's going on here. Maybe these people aren't just the devils that I've been continuously told and drilled into my brain that they are. Maybe they're actually just regular Eldians like myself, and we're all the same. Wow, really big surprise there that the people of your own ethnic group, other Eldians, are just like you. That other Eldians, that your people who have the same history as you, except you just didn't leave Marley, are of the same beliefs and are having the same struggles that you have. And Falco, being good guy Falco, like usual, basically decides to tell Kaya that the reason her parents died was because it was a recon mission, referring to the mission with Reiner, Annie, etc., etc. The first attack. It basically told Kaya the truth that it was a recon mission and that the goal was to take back the Founding Titan, blah 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 blah, Marleyan propaganda, right? And Gabi, instead of feeling some sense of remorse in realizing that maybe she's not in the right, immediately screams, "Well, Falco, why are you giving intel to the enemy?" Stupid thought process, Gabi. You can't even rationalize a little bit of emotion here for Kaya. Your first thing is, don't give intel to the enemy. No, Falco is telling her how and why her mother died. Why her mother had to die. That's the right thing to do here. It was a recon mission. It wasn't the right thing to do. It wasn't right to invade paradise. That's what Falco is telling Kaya, and Gabi has a problem with that still after all of this. So then Kaya goes on to have a monologue about basically how she wants to be just like Sasha. Now keep in mind, she doesn't explicitly name Sasha as the person that she's striving to be and why she keeps moving forward in life. She doesn't mention Sasha, so Gabi and Falco don't know that the person that saved Kaya's life is the same person that Gabi unrightfully murdered. The episode ends very shortly after that, basically just with Kaya continuing to talk about how she wants to be like Sasha, and that's all we got. So next week we'll have to find out, next week episode 12, if you're watching this after episode 11 has aired, and maybe we're already on episode 15 of the season at this time. But in episode 12, episode 71, we're hopefully, maybe, going to see that Sasha will get a name drop, and that will be the big determination on whether Gabi is true. We know she's depraved, as I've said, but is she going to feel bad that she killed Sasha? Is she going to feel even a bit of remorse at that point for what she has done to Kaya, who she now is hopefully coming to understand is a normal person and is, if anything, just like Gabi? Up to this point, I have held a lot back when it comes to talking about Gabi. I haven't really jumped on the Gabi hate train that was trending on Twitter when Sasha was murdered, the Gabi move. I haven't really jumped on that completely yet because I'm trying to understand how Gabi's character at this point kind of draws parallels to season 1 and 2 Eren, where Eren was like, I'm gonna kill all the Titans and all the Titans need to die, and then he came to realize that the Titans are just people who are victims of a terrible genocide by a oppressive fascist state, right? And so I'm seeing how Gabi could still potentially grow out of this. But the truth is, Gabi's not as smart as Eren. She's never been as smart as Eren ever was. And that's not anything personally against Gabi. That's just the truth in how her character behaves. Whether that's because she's been so heavily indoctrinated that it's affecting her thought process and her intellect that heavily, or it's just a part of her personality in general. She's just not the person that Eren is. Eren was quickly able to overcome his scenario, and obviously Eren now is a completely different person. But Eren came to learn that the Titans he had been killing, who had killed many of his friends and his family, were not at fault. And Gabi has yet to recognize that the Paradisians are not at fault. So we'll just have to see. Regardless, I think Gabi is going to be a very hot topic next week, and I'm excited to see how and if she reacts to finding out that the woman that Kaya holds in such esteem that saved Kaya's life is Sasha. That's going to be the next big thing for Gabi's character. Obviously, Falco is already to the point where he feels bad about all of this. He's spilling the Marleyan secrets to Kaya. He doesn't care. He knows that they're in the wrong, but Gabi doesn't. So next week, episode 12 or episode 71 in total will be the big determiner for which direction Gabi's character is going to take. Now, this is my first time trying out a video like this. This is completely unscripted. I have my face in it basically the entire time, and I hope you guys enjoyed this format. And I'm probably going to keep doing this because honestly I enjoy this, and I'm still going to keep up the video essay stuff with the heavy editing and the heavy script writing. Don't get me wrong, that's what's gotten my channel to this point. But if you guys enjoy this, leave a like, let me know in the comments, and maybe even drop a subscribe, and I'll just have to see if I want to continue to do these type of videos. If I want to continue to even do them for Attack on Titan on a weekly basis, I can do so. If you've gotten to this point, if you've watched to this point, I wanted to say thank you. You had to look at my ugly mug this entire video, and this is my first unscripted video, like I said, so thank you for watching to this point. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, if you would help my channel grow, and I will continue to bring you guys awesome content relating to anime, manga, and whatever else I feel is relevant. You guys have a great rest of your day, and hasta luego.